Hey guys, this is Mr. V over here, and I'm going to be reviewing a book today called Gerald's Game, written by Stephen King. This book was released in 1992, and it clocks in at 332 pages. I'm just going to give a brief synopsis about what the book is about, and then go through my review and what I thought about it. So, the main plot of the story is about a woman named Jessie and her husband Gerald. Gerald has this kinky sex game in which he loves to handcuff Jessie to the bed and then have sex with her. Gerald loves the game, Jessie does not, but she is willing to put up with it. And the book starts out where they are at a summer home, and it's the very end of summer. It's like their vacation home. It's a lakeside summer home, and it's very secluded. There is no one there within miles of that place. And the book starts out where she's basically handcuffed to the bed, waiting for Gerald to come out to have sex. And when he comes out, she decides that she doesn't want it anymore. She doesn't want to be handcuffed. She doesn't want the sex. Gerald thinks that's just her being kinkier. And Jessie gets incredibly pissed off to where she has to kick Gerald multiple times very hard. And those kicks end up causing Gerald to have a heart attack and die. So the main plot now of the book is that Jessie is in a secluded lakefront home with people that are not around for miles, handcuffed to the bed. And it's about, can she survive? How can she escape? And also, can she deal with some of the darkness of her past? As she has certain things that are a pretty dark past, and can she deal with that as she is all alone now? So that is the main uh, premise of the book. And before I go into my review, one thing I want to say is I was actually very shocked by this book. Of course, there are some shocking aspects of this book. Stephen King, almost all his books have shocking aspects. But I was shocked because on Goodreads, this is, I think, the second or third lowest rated Stephen King novel. And I was very shocked by that, as everyday people can go there and rate what they think it is out of five. And this one was rated very low for it being a novel, and I was very shocked. But I went in thinking maybe it won't be much. The premise sounded interesting, but I actually found it that I actually enjoyed the book a lot. That I thought it was actually really well done. And some of the reasons I'll say, some of the reasons why I thought it was well done. One of the biggest things is that he was able to add a lot of suspense without it being super gruesome. There were parts that were slightly gruesome, but he added a lot of suspense for some things that are seemingly like non-suspenseful, like when she is handcuffed to the bed, her trying to get water. There's water at a table, but how can she get that water because she needs that for survival? But there's also a lot of suspense in the voices in her head. And what I mean by that is she is trying to deal with some of the dark past she has. She has her voice in her head. She has a friend who she hasn't seen in 10 years and like a motherly figure. And like she hears all those different voices in her head, just like everybody, analyzes things without saying it out loud. And, that's what she's doing to try to deal with her dark past. So this book is very psychological because it's just basically her talking to imaginary people like that are in her head. It's just a friend she hasn't spoken to in 10 years and like a motherly figure, and that's it. And the whole time she's just trying to escape, and like, how can she escape? Are there things that can help her escape? And most of all, can she deal with like some of the dark stuff that happened in the past? And it is very suspenseful because even when you think you know what will happen, like if you know A will happen, Stephen King does a great job in the story of still like wanting to see how will A happen. If you know it will be A, then B, then you want to see like, okay, how will it be A and B? So that's why I said he did a great job with suspense. Um, and you really root for the character Jessie. She is you just root for her. You want her to get out. You want her to be able to face her darkness and overcome that. So again, it was those are some great things about the book. Now, there were some negative aspects I thought about the book. One thing I did not like about the book is I thought that Stephen King sometimes took some almost like cheap routes to get to the story. What I mean by that is this couple's in their like late 30s or early 40s. And the husband's death happened very quickly. It happened within the first 10 pages or 15 pages, but that I thought it was a pretty weak way for him to die. It was just she kicks him very hard, but then he gets a heart attack and dies. It to me it seemed kind of like a cheap way out that he didn't go more in detail about something crazier happening to him. It was just I got to find a way. And even I know you can get heart attacks at all ages, but despite him being fairly young, he just gets a heart attack so he can die and get rid of the character. So I thought that was pretty cheap. And there were some other parts of the story, which I will not discuss here because it would spoil certain aspects. But there's parts like in the middle to like, 3/4 of the way through the book where it also feels fairly cheap. And it's even thinking back, I was like, okay, that story plot didn't really make sense. He kind of took a cheap way out. And you can say that there's some areas where it's like he took a pretty cheap way out. And it's just certain plots and that's it. But overall, I thought it was actually really well done. It was just those were some of the negatives. Um, One thing you should know before reading this book is, despite me saying that Stephen King added a lot of suspense without being gruesome, this still is one of the most gruesome books that he has written. Again, I cannot say why because it would be some spoilers, but it is definitely one of the most gruesome books that he has written for multiple reasons. Um, it is just, yeah, it can get gruesome. And while I don't think it's gruesome for too much of it, or like overly crazily gruesome, you've got to have a pretty strong stomach to read this one, not only based off the plot, but based off some of the stuff you read in it. It can be pretty crazy at times. And lastly, the thing I want to say is about the ending. Stephen King is known to not have good endings, but I thought it had a decent end. It was not great, but it was decent. And what I mean by decent is the last few pages, or the last like page, last 2 pages, I actually enjoyed that. But then like the last chapter, I was just like, okay, I didn't think he took a cheap way out, but it was kind of like a whatever type of thing. But that overall, it still had a decent end, and is by no means close to bad. So, on a scale of 0 to 10, with 5 being an average and 10 being absolutely amazing, I would rate this book a 7 out of 10. Again, 5 is the average, so 7 out of 10 for me is actually very high. It's very difficult to get to a 10. But I put this book as one that, if you see it in the bookstore and, it sounds like it's just right at the time, you feel like it's right, it still is a very, very good book. So 7 out of 10 is very high for me, and I hope you guys go out and read it because it has some great elements of suspense throughout. So anyway, don't forget, I hope you click the like, I hope you click subscribe. If you have anything to say, post it in the comments section and I'll always respond. But don't forget, my name is Mr. V, and I hope you guys have a great time reading the book.